Howdy everybody, how y'all doing? And welcome to the Ice House, where we try to keep things cool, calm, collected, and mostly a bit chill. Well, today we've got sort of a interesting juxtaposition, and well, if you were paying attention yesterday in the PSA, you might have got a hint of what we're doing, right? But today I really want to go into, well, it's kind of a two-sided coin that, well, sometimes the two shall meet, but sometimes they don't, right? So here's what I'm saying, right? On one hand, or flipper, you've got, well, we've all have routines and rhythms and way we do things, right? Now, if you're unlucky enough to be actually OCD, it's a really rough place to be because, well, there's certain things that you can have these requirements of how things have to be, and it's really difficult to move forward, right? And I think we all have some of those quirks to an extent, right? In a lesser way. But you know, there's this thing of this comfortability of routine of something being done a certain way, or you want it a certain way, whether it's, well, in a family system, whether it's your own personal son of morning routine or evening routine, right? Or like I said, our family system where certain people do certain things and everybody plays their part. Or maybe it's in your place of business, right? There's certain business procedures that you've gotten used to, comfortable with, and this goes to this, to this, to this, and it's very simple, structured. You don't really have to think about it. It's very nice, right? Well, on the other hand, or flipper, you have how you want things to feel, right? The internal, the emotional. Now, I know there's you guys in the back that, right, you say, facts hurt feelings and all that stuff, and I don't disagree, and maybe you don't want to admit that you have feelings or emotions, and that's cool, right? You don't have to talk about them. I'm not asking you to talk about it. I'm just asking you to listen, right? And the thing is, there's certain things that we want certain interactions with people to go a certain way, or we want it to feel a certain way, right? We want something that feels like a nice, warm hug deep inside. Maybe that's why people turn to whiskey and booze, because it feels warm and tingly inside, and it's sometimes a replacement for other stuff. But I'm not getting into that because it's okay. We don't have to talk about it, right? But there's certain things we want certain interactions to go a certain way, right? And there's a sense of, well, on both sides, there's a sense of loss when you try to do something, you try to go out of your way, you try to do something that you think is impactful or meaningful, or in the past has had some sort of connection, and then when you try it again, it doesn't work, and you feel a sense of loss or something inside, right? And that's a hard place to be, right? And which is why we shouldn't just turn to things that substitute that completely and forget about the rest of the things, because, well, admit it or not, the feelings and stuff are important. But I digress, right? So there's on this flipper, like I said, there's the procedures and the rhythms and the things that just are nice, right? And sometimes it's like, it doesn't matter how it feels, because some days you're having a crappy day, or some days you're having a good day, and it's just nice to do something that's routine, because you don't have to think about it, because it just falls into place, and whatever's going on in life really isn't affected by this. But, when we're, say, if we've been traveling, and we've been used to hotels, and we go back living at home, and all of a sudden things are slowly out of sorts, and your rhythm has changed, things are in different locations, maybe you live with people, and that causes a whole different sort of dynamic, or, like the family rhythms and routines, people not doing the same chores or tasks when you're doing a work thing, like, it's also difficult, when, say, you have this procedure at work, or maybe they change your position a little bit, or your responsibilities, and all of a sudden, maybe they put you on a different machine for a day or two to help out, and all of a sudden, all the things that you're used to you gotta either relearn, recalibrate, or they say, for some stipulation or reason, we can no longer do things this way or use this material, or right? And you're like, really something dumb happened, and now we all have to suffer and relearn something that seems silly and counterproductive, and you just get flustered because all these things that kind of were simple and good and happy, or whether it's the routine getting thrown off, or you really want to try to connect with somebody on a personal level and it doesn't work. It's just, there's this kind of flustered, the sense of loss, right? Well, before we get to that, because there's a truth that whether, certain rhythms and routines and certain feelings, like every now and then we get this thing where they kind of meet in the middle, right? Where a routine, where a certain sort of autopilot connects with a certain sort of feeling, certain sort of reward, right? Emotional internal reward. And that's really nice. I think that's why we fight so much to keep those routines, and we fight so much against the change that all of a sudden takes away the point, the meaning, the value of this rhythm and routine, and the sense of loss, because, well, these little things that we didn't have to try for just fit in so well, and they met all these needs, and now we're back at square one, feeling lost and frustrated, right? Like I said, you guys in the back, you could just, nod in your head, that's fine, that's cool, right? So, it's kind of, like I said, an interesting conundrum, if you will, because when it comes down to it, in a lot of ways, there's this, when we're trying to interact with the world, right, one of the biggest issues we have, I think, is we want to recreate this moment where what we do and the rhythms and routines and certain actions evoke and contain the same feelings or rewards or, responses or reactions from, say, different people in different environments, right? And so, all of a sudden, there's this fixation on how do we recreate things based on what we think we understand, and all of a sudden, you want to do something, and then you want it to have this result, right? Which is a fair hypothesis, but sometimes we don't get past that fact. Sometimes people get so stuck on, and I say people, or we, right? It's interchangeable because we're all people. We get stuck on this idea that we have to do this thing this way, and it has to have this result. And it's kind of an untested waters when it's maybe involving a different subset of groups at work, a different test subject group, or, survey group, and they're not giving you the responses you want to. Or maybe you're trying to meet new people, whether it's platonically, romantically, and certain things that you did in the past that got great responses are not working now, right? And you kind of feel like, what's the problem? What's failing? And what's not connecting when this has worked so well on multiple occasions in multiple ways, right? Well, this is when we get into the kind of making fun of the 80s movies, and right when you had that boss that wanted to turn that nice beachside into some condos or duplex or some sort of living space for rich people, and basically taking away all the fun for the kids in the neighborhood and telling them they can't skateboard on the sidewalk, and you know what I'm talking about, right? But the boss has this pet project and it has to work, and throughout the movie you see different people getting shut down and saying, hey boss, I think this is an issue, or oh no, that's not going to be an issue, this plan has to work, it's going to be amazing, it's going to work, and then those rascally kids show up and ruin the plans, and they get to keep their cool, scenic, fun neighborhood the same, and that old suit get chased out of town because they had terrible practices and they were trying to spill toxic waste and ruin the beach, and okay, right, whatever. You get what I'm saying. And I know I like to harp on that stuff a lot because I think it's a silly representation of a lot of things we even deal with now, right? But when you're so fixated on has to be done a certain way and it has to have this outcome, well, in the absurdity of the 80s movie trope, I think we can kind of realize that if we try the same way a couple times and it's doomed for failure, then we're not really kind of figuring it out, because in most ways, when we're trying to figure out something new and trying to understand new people or a new situation or a new business, we get either the choice of the procedure has to be done a certain way because certain regulations or certain personal issues, right? Now, if it's a sort of a legal issue, then you can't really sway in that in business-wise, but sometimes you can kind of tweak the process to maybe work on some unnecessary doubling up of things, or maybe streamline the process a little bit better, and you can present that in a way that's management understands and can show how it could be a profitable change. Maybe that could work, right? And hopefully you get to work with people who can. But when it comes to family systems and trying to change rhythm and routine because something's off or not working, can be a lot more difficult, right? But maybe you can figure out a way to work together, communicate how to make that happen. But on the other hand, if you want something to feel a certain way or do a certain thing, right, and you're working with new people, or once again, maybe it's the family system and people you're used to working with, and you think you've lost that love and feeling and you want to get it back. Well, sometimes if what you've been doing for so long isn't working, you got to be open to figuring out new ways of doing things to get to that reward, that feeling, that emotional warm fuzzy, right? Because let's face it, if we have to do it one way and it has to have this result, and we're just stuck and fixated on that, it's we kind of get stuck in a spot, and then if we can't figure out how to move forward, we end up kind of looking almost as absurd as those 80s bosses who didn't get their megaplex, right? We got to figure out how to move forward and adapt a little bit better than that, right? So I guess all that to say is, I've been hooked on a feeling before, and I've been caught up in a routine before, but sometimes you got to figure out how to make them meet, and it takes a lot more work than we'd like sometimes. But I think being able to break certain cycles, or figure out why some things feel a certain way or should or shouldn't feel a way, or maybe we're chasing after a fleeting feeling or emotion that isn't really what we want or need. Maybe there's something if we step back and evaluate a little bit better, instead of hitting our heads against the same wall over and over, we might have a chance to enjoy something new, feel something new, experience something new, and who knows, maybe open the door to connecting with new people, and maybe learning a new rhythm, a new routine that's actually quite more enjoyable than what we had. But we never know until we allow one or the other to, be challenged and be open for a little bit of advice, thoughts, outside influence, right? So, I guess that's pretty much all I got for today, and I know it's a little bit a lot, but hopefully that's helpful. So, like I said, have your routines, and have the things that, make you feel the way you want to, right? But also be open to all the new things and all the new experiences that somebody else can bring into your life. And just because you're not used to it doesn't mean it's bad, or maybe it's something you want but you're not sure how to say it. So, try to be open for all those things, because it's always fun to grow and experience new things. Anyway, that's about all I got for you today, and maybe I'm just gonna go have my routine afternoon nap and wake up and see if I can't figure out something new, or at least figure out what kind of new craziness some of these other puppets have gotten into, and bring Punkwaddle. So, until next time, we'll see you later. Bye!